Hi and welcome to the Kind Community Sustainability Podcast. I'm your host, Gianna Velli, and on the show we uncover the stories, tactics and skills of people doing great things for the planet and turn their experiences into practical advice that you can use to impact your own life and those around you. We have pulled together an amazing competition prize to give away to one lucky listener. It could be you. Now all you've got to do is subscribe to our channel. You've got to follow us on our socials and you've got to leave us a review. And one of you could be in the chance of winning. I just want to say thanks so much for each of the brands that have contributed to this. We've got Halo, we've got Produce Mate, we have Kindwood, we have Unplugged. Get your hands on an amazing prize giveaway and feel free to share this podcast with one of your friends and they may even win and they might even share it with you. Good luck. This week on the show, I'm joined by Sarah Lim, Business Development Director of Halo Coffee. Now, 60 billion coffee capsules are produced every year since 2018, and these capsules can take up to 500 years to degrade. That means your great grandchildren will still see coffee capsules on this planet. That's crazy. So Halo created a capsule that can degrade in as little as 28 days and is home compostable. This is why I had to get them on and hear their story. Enjoy it. How are you today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Just in the middle of this whole coronavirus pandemic and putting out a lot more content, I find. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think people are more kind of receptive to different kinds of messaging at this time. They have a little bit more time on their hands to consider, what they're listening to, what they're buying, what they're watching. I think it's a good time to kind of reflect internally.
Look, I really wanted to get you on the show to hear your story and hear a bit more about your fantastic product. Tell us a bit more about Halo.
Okay, so Halo is a home compostable coffee capsule. So it fits with the Nespresso system and it's different to all the other capsules on the market because it's made from recycled sugarcane fiber. So once the juice is extracted, we then get the fiber and mold that into a capsule shape. And because of this material, it breaks down in about 28 days in the home compost, which is quite different to everything else on the market. So we're pretty proud of that.
Yeah, awesome. And you better be proud. I think there's incredible innovation there. I don't have the stats to me. I'm sure hopefully you can share, but this whole rise in these Nespresso pods and instant coffee kind of capsule machines, the hope in the floodgates to people enjoying great coffee, but no one really thought about the onward problems with pollution. So could you share a bit more about that?
Yeah, so Nespresso started the entire journey kind of over 20 years ago, and they tried to create the perfect product for what they were trying to achieve. So aluminium is great because it has all these properties that deliver great coffee at the end. But we're so far down the line now, and that's not good enough for our requirements today. Today, we have to consider the sustainability of the product, so it doesn't quite work anymore, which is why we developed this capsule, because in 2018 alone, there were 60 billion capsules produced, most of which would end up in landfill or the oceans. And that's just in 1 year. So we thought we have to address this problem.
Fantastic. So, Sarah, tell us a bit more about your background, like before Halo. Who's Sarah before that?
So I've got a slightly unusual story. I joined Halo as a graduate. I was looking around basically for companies I thought this really needs to exist and I want to be part of this company, of this journey, because I believe in it. So rather than just going down the graduate route, I looked like long and hard for something that I was passionate about, and I stumbled upon Halo. I thought, this is it, I have to do it.
What I took from that was a business that really aligned with your values and something that you
Okay.
could make a positive impact on the world. And Halo seemed to be it.
It fit the bill. I love food. I love, the industry of food and drink, and sustainability is a big passion of mine as well. So it just fit really well.
You're in this startup that essentially has disrupted this whole Nespresso capsule game. How are you able to connect with the conscious consumer at the moment?
We are mostly an e-commerce brand at the moment, so a lot of the way we connect with our customers is online, so through social media. We ask for a lot of feedback. We are communicating constantly with our customer through newsletters. We do some trade shows, so we try to talk to them there, and we try to position ourselves as the educators of the industry. So we put out quite a lot of content for people to read by way of blogs and writing for other people's sites, just a little bit about how to be more sustainable.
Would you say your competitor is Nespresso?
Yes, it's quite a busy market
Mm.
that we're in. So a few years ago, the patent lapsed on the design of the Nespresso, and quite a few alternatives have come onto the market. So it is quite busy.
How are you kind of portraying that sustainability message to consumers? I mean, I hadn't even discovered a capsule that um, was made out of that material that you guys do.
And that's the interesting thing. We are the only company that has a paper based capsule. So you have aluminium, which is fairly common, plastic, which is very common, and bioplastic, which is gaining in popularity. And those are what are known as eco capsules. But they're basically the same polymer as you would find in an oil based plastic, derived from a renewable source. And that comes with quite a few issues at the end of life kind of processing side of it, because the infrastructure is not quite set up to deal with bioplastic, and you can't put it in recycling because it contaminates the waste stream, which is why we thought waste sugarcane was the best material to go with.
How did you come up with that idea? How did you kind of discover the differences between these different polymers? I'm just thinking of, say, our listeners here today that have no clue of um, the supply chain or that part of manufacturing. Right? How did you discover what what was good to use and how you were going to make sure that when it went into the marketplace, you weren't kind of disrupting or unbalancing a different type of process?
Yeah, this is, I think, the key issue for consumers. They have very good intentions, but it's so difficult to discern what actually is good or what is marketing. And for us, we just had to do the research. We had to visit different manufacturers, test different materials, and it took months and months and months. So we just had to get our heads down and figure it out for ourselves, basically. Which
Amazing.
is why we want to position ourselves as educators, because we know there's a lot of noise in the marketplace and consumers just want to know the facts.
Sure. So how are you breaking through and educating consumers on on the right things to look for, especially in this space?
We do some talks, as I said before, we do some blogs, and we just try to engage with customers as much as possible. Being quite a small brand, we don't have the biggest voice yet, but we're hoping to build on that and to continue trying to educate the public.
Amazing. I mean, that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the show today and just share a bit more about it, especially as consumers want to have good intentions, as you say, but don't necessarily know what words are marketing, greenwashing. So, do you have a little tip, a sustainable tip that you could pass on to listeners that they can make a slight change immediately and have an impact on the planet?
Yeah, my favorite thing at the moment are collapsible coffee cups, because I'm not sure if you know or not, but a lot of coffee cups are recyclable because they are layered with plastic over paper. So that is very hard to recycle. So I just bring my own coffee cup everywhere, and I'm always out of space. I just need to be wedging things in my bag. And this collapses into this tiny little disc, and you're away. Have your coffee, close it up, put it in your bag.
Amazing. Yeah, sure. I don't quite have a collapsible one, but I came across a really interesting um, innovation tail end of last year. Um, and it was basically a reusable coffee cup, takeaway coffee cup that was made out of ground coffee beans. So
Yeah.
the company Cafe Form and the founder Julian was we were put together at a boot camp that we did for IKEA, and he showed me the biopolymer that he'd made out of ground coffee. So it was incredible. But I think, as you say, if you're out of space, if you can just buy one of those cups that fold down, you can just make sure you've got it in your bag with you all times, and it just helps. Could you tell us a bit more about? I know you mentioned that we were talking about the kind of outside of the capsule being uh, biodegradable in-home composting.
Yes.
Is that period of time accelerated if someone was to just throw it in the bin, or how do you make sure that people do the right thing with their capsules?
The good thing about our capsules is that it can go in any waste stream. So home composting is the best because it doesn't need to travel anywhere. You don't have the carbon associated to transport, and you can use it as a fertilizer. You can, use the compost for whatever it is you wish. But you can put it in landfill, and it will degrade in say 3 to 5 years. There's a lack of oxygen in landfill, which means things degrade very slowly. For context, a banana peel takes about 2 years to degrade in landfill. So it's a very slow process. They can also go to industrial composting, so with your food waste, and it won't be picked out because if you've ever seen a halo capsule, they look very natural. And as soon as they've been used, exposed to that heat and water, it starts to degrade immediately. So that goes through with no problem. And it can also be recycled. So if you take the coffee grounds out, you put the capsules in the mixed recycling, and that will go through with paper recycling.
I've heard that used coffee, ground coffee, once you've obviously had your nice pick me up, that ground coffee you can actually use as a fertilizer.
Yes, and it's really good as well. It sometimes wards off, I think, some pests. So it has a whole load of different uses. Another thing we like is baking it into a cake. So if you're making a coffee cake, you can use the grounds in there because it's not too strongly flavored, adds a little bit of fiber.
Amazing. Maybe you have to send us your favorite coffee cake recipe, and
Yeah.
we'll link it out in the show notes so people can make that, because I don't think I've done that yet, but I will give it a go. So love to have tried the product, but personally, I myself don't use an espresso machine, so that in itself would be a waste of time. But I'm looking forward to sharing it with listeners and linking out to it, so anyone that does have a compatible machine can make the change, because we all have a small part to play. It seems like a very easy change to make to have a great, huge, better impact. Um,
Yeah.
so tell us a bit more about the business model. A customer comes to site, can they buy just a single batch? It seems to me that it would lend quite well to perhaps a subscription model where I just get weekly deliveries or monthly deliveries, knowing that that's going to last me a month based on 3-4 coffees a day.
Yes. So we do both. We have the one-off option for flexibility. People like to switch it up every now and then, or they're traveling. But we have a subscription model, which I personally use, and you can change it from 1 week up to as many weeks as you want. You can mix the boxes, so we've got some mixed boxes with different coffees in them, and they're all letterbox friendly, so it fits through any standard UK letterbox. and you don't have to be home to receive it.
Fantastic. All right. So I'll come back from, well, once we're all out of quarantine now, you expect to come back from work and your coffee has arrived with the letters.
Exactly.
So could you tell us a bit more about the sustainability side of things on the actual coffee that you put into your amazing capsules?
Okay. Yes, our coffees are specialty grade, which means they're graded on a scale out of 100, um, and they have to be a minimum of an 80. So the coffees are very, very high quality. There's a lot of care put into growing them because to get the nuanced notes that we enjoy, you need to be sure that the soil is correct, the shade, the amount of shade that the coffee trees, plants are receiving is correct. You know, if you're intercropping it with other, say, cocoa or nuts, it just all needs to be very considered. And that's why we like to trade direct with farmers from the origins that we source from.
How does choosing those plants have an impact on sustainability?
Okay, so in order to grow the coffee of that quality, the environment around the coffee plants must be, well looked after. It must be healthy. So that lends into the sustainability side of it. And because we trade directly with coffee farmers, we ensure that all their needs are met. So we have a dialogue with them to ensure that their social needs and including money are looked after.
Great stuff. So I guess because you're missing out the middleman, you get to pay the farmers direct. That that you're providing an income to them that's sustainable in its sense, and you can see directly the care of where these farmers are putting your money into to grow the coffee that goes on into your capsules, and missing that extra pair of hands out, I guess, probably minimizes the amount of distance the coffee has to travel.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. Fantastic. I'd usually ask that question, like, what's the next 3 months look like for your business? But we're all in quarantine. It'd be probably slightly different. It's not quite business as usual for you, is it?
Well, quarantine is an interesting time for us because we're finding our customers have more time on their hands to care about what they're consuming. Because often, because capsules are a convenience, the people who are purchasing them are very busy. They're on the run. They're just, make a coffee and go. But now they're finding a little bit more time to sit back and read up about what it is they're buying. And they're really enjoying that. So we're getting a lot of new customers saying, I've researched you guys, I've looked into the company and I love the background, I love the mission. I'm really enjoying that side of the interaction with customers, getting to hear their thoughts on it because they're having the time to look into us as a company.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've definitely seen that as a trend where consumers are taking a um, lot more time to make the right decision. And naturally, because they're at home, they're probably having to make themselves coffee now. So um,
Yeah.
it's a great time. So what's next for you as a business? Any innovations in the pipeline that you can tell us about?
Well, up till now, all of our coffees have been suited to an espresso, so it's a shorter pour, and we are soon to launch a lungo, so it's suited to a slightly longer cup. So that's exciting from our world. But when we launched, we were also a B2C focused business, so mainly looking at direct to consumer, and we are expanding our horizons into the business to business trade, which is very exciting.
Oh, amazing, great stuff. So business to business, so offices that are wanting to positively impact how their employees consume coffee, meet CSR needs, and really want to make a difference in providing a sustainable business. an opportunity to interact with their team, because I think a lot of people forget about how a sustainable business can be. They usually think it's our product or our service needs to be sustainable, and how do we donate to charities, and we kind of tick those boxes. But more often than not, we could actually do a lot of change within our teams.
Mhm.
Where do we source our products from that supply the canteen? And as you say, if you're working with some of those businesses, you're supplying now a compostable coffee cup where you could think of hundreds of capsules that are just being thrown away, put into landfill every day. And a business making a switch to using Halo would have a great impact. I'm looking forward to seeing that. If there's anything I can do to help, I'd love
Thank
to
you.
help.
And hotels are another great one. So, they often have espresso machines in the rooms. And if you think about how your rooms are in a hotel, it's a huge saving for the environment.
Yeah, you know what? I always used to love, back in the day, you'd go to a hotel and there'd be like a crappy kettle and some dodgy tea bags. And if you wanted a half decent coffee, you either risked ordering room service, and even then the coffee wasn't so great. You'd have to then, I guess, you get out and about into the city that you were traveling into or town to discover good coffee. But recently, you walk into a nice a hotel room, you see the espresso machine in the corner. You got a couple of capsules, and then that for me, that was like, I hate these things. That whole wasted single use thing. I I I actually love how you guys are disrupting that market.
Thank you.
So Sarah, what does sustainability mean to you?
To me, I think sustainability is us living within our means, understanding that we have finite resources and that we have to live in a way that is sustainable for the planet. So if we have habits, if we've developed habits, we need to be able to carry them on for centuries. Otherwise, fine, we'll be able to have Nespresso capsules for 20 years, but after that, what are we going to do? We're going to be in a state of emergency because, you know, bush, the forests are on fire and all manner of things.
In your opinion, what's one CEO or founder that you really look up to that's doing great things for the environment right now?
I'm really enjoying Rebel Kitchen at the moment. So I think the founders of Rebel Kitchen are doing a fantastic job. I think they were quite early pioneers of the non-dairy milks. And I mean, I say to people all the time, your cup of coffee has a carbon footprint associated to it, yes, but if you add milk to it, that doubles it because the milk itself has such a high carbon footprint. So if you can replace that with an oat milk or a coconut milk, you're doing yourself and the planet huge favors.
I agree. I cut out and changed to non. I cut out dairy and moved to non-dairy alternatives. I kind of mix it up between oat milk and soya, depending on the kind of, because they all give slightly different flavor tones
Yeah.
to a coffee. I haven't seen anyone, um, and apologies if you guys have done this, but I haven't seen anyone making kind of pairing with certain coffee blends with certain types of alternative milks.
Yes. We haven't done it specifically for different types of milk, but something very interesting about Halo is we have very low acidity coffees throughout our entire range. So I'm not sure if that you've ever noticed this, but some coffees will curdle non-dairy milks, and it's quite horrible. And that's because of the high acidity. So because of the low acidity nature of our coffees, they work super well with any vegan milk.
Oh, beautiful. No, I didn't know that. I actually thought the curdling came from, say, the barista just overcooking the milk. But I have actually seen it where, the milk wasn't too hot and it just seemed to, yeah, curdle. But so it's down to the acidity of the coffee.
Yes, I think it can be the barista as well. There's a variety of reasons, but one of them is very acidic coffee or acidic coffee will curdle the non-dairy milk.
We are coming up to the end of our time together here today. But before we go, we've got a quick fire round. What would you say is your best business book?
Thinking fast and slow.
Second question. What's a sustainable hack that you do very frequently?
Go for the easy alternatives. So Halo Coffee, Earth Conscious deodorant, anything that's just direct swap. You don't need to think about it, but it's better for the environment.
Amazing. Quick, snappy decisions, slightly changing your buying habits, but something very simple. Like for like, sort of going from
Yeah,
dairy milk to nut
yeah.
milks or oat milks. But if you were to go back in time and bump into a 20-year-old self, what would be one piece of advice that you would give her?
I would say grit is the key to success. I mean, you don't expect it, but hiccups are always going to happen and knock you back a little bit, but you just have to get up and get going again, because everything that can go wrong will go wrong.
I love that. So thinking fast and slow, make easy, quick, like for like decisions to make better conscious decisions, and grit is what will get you through in the end. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today. Before we go, is there anything you want to share with the listeners that they can take away with them today?
Yeah, I think the key to sustainability is you don't have to be all in or all out. Something I love is be imperfectly vegan, be imperfectly sustainable. You don't have to be everything at once. Just try your best, and you're doing as much as you can.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for that piece of advice. I love that. How do the listeners contact yourself, Halo Coffee? How do we buy some? Tell us.
We are online, halo.coffee. So that is where you can find us. Our shop is on there, or we are stocked at Whole Foods markets across London.
Great stuff. Amazing. Sarah, thank you again. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a lovely day.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of the Kind Community Sustainability Podcast. Really hope you got value. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of the Kind Community Sustainability Podcast. Really hope you got value from that. If you did, please share amongst your friends, tag someone in your socials, literally screen grab this shot right now and share it across your socials and tag one of your friends. You'll also be in with a chance to win the £500 sustainable prize giveaway. You can find a copy of the show notes on our website, kind.community/podcast. Don't forget to connect with us on socials. It's Kind Community Official on Instagram and Facebook, also on TikTok, Kind Community. Anywhere where you search Kind Community, that's us. So really looking forward to you getting engaged. What I'd love is if you could tag us in any of your feedback, any of your questions. Who do you want to see on the show? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and continue to tune in for some more amazing sustainable interviews with founders, change makers, people making a difference and making this world a better place.